Okay, we're live.
Yay, we're live.
Um, so let's go ahead and start. Uh, for for the purpose of the recording, last week, at the time of this recording, the Trump administration announced that they had struck deals on pricing for popular weight loss medications with two major manufacturers, Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly. And so the weight loss drugs that people most talk about that they produce are Eli Lilly produces Zepbound and Mounjaro. Zepbound is FDA approved or indicated for weight management, and Mounjaro is indicated for type 2 diabetes. And I believe one or the other of them have been approved for a couple of other things. Like I think
Right.
Zepbound
Yep.
was approved for sleep apnea.
Mhm.
And then Novo Nordisk manufactures Wegovy, which is indicated for weight loss, and I believe also heart conditions to prevent serious heart events. And then Ozempic, which everybody knows about Ozempic,
Yeah.
which is a type 2 diabetes drug. So I wanted to have this conversation with Shradina, who is new to Substack,
Yay.
about GLP-1s, which is kind of the class of these drugs, which technically tirzepatide, which is Mounjaro, and Zepbound are actually their own class because it's um, two hormones.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
it's
exactly.
but it people kind of in the common vernacular people kind of lump them all together. So I wanted to welcome Tradina to Substack.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I wanted to have this conversation because I know this is an important topic for everybody, and people are wondering what's going to happen to access and will it make it easier and what's going on. But Tradina, I would love for you to start by introducing yourself. You're new to Substack and you have a lot of expertise in this area. And so please share what you do.
Yes, so my name is Tradina once again. Most people call me Dina, either one is fine. And so I've been a dietitian for probably well over a decade now. And so I haven't really specialized too much up until like the last 2 years where I found a need. So I started getting a lot of like bariatric patients, well, people who are post bariatric surgery and people who have been using the GLP-1 medications. And I noticed that for people who have had bariatric surgery, a lot of them would be like, "Oh yeah, I had the surgery, and the doctor just gave me a big binder of information, like nutrition information, and that was it. I was sent on my way." The only time they met with the dietitian was like pre-surgery, or maybe somewhere a little bit after that, but that was it. They're on their own, and that is so scary to me. And then for the GLP-1s, people are thinking that, "Oh, I don't have an appetite that's good. I'm losing weight." Yeah, but some of them were malnourished because, they didn't understand that there's a nutrient balance there. So anyway, I found a gap there and I am trying to fill that gap. And so I'm undergoing like a lot of training for to help me understand bariatric nutrition a lot better, and to also help me understand GLP-1 nutrition. Also, and not just GLP-1, also other weight loss medications can have some of these same issues, like phentermine and some of the other ones. So anyway, yeah, that's what I'm pretty much working on. And I decided to join Substack because really I'm a writer at heart. I love to write. And I just found I'm on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube too, but you don't really get to do any like long form writing stuff. So anyway, when I heard about Substack, I was like, what's this new shiny object? So anyway, I decided to join Substack. I'm like, great, I can write and then create newsletters and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm very fresh, very very new, very wet behind the ears, but I'm excited, and I do hope that I can contribute my knowledge in a substantial way and that many people benefit from it from years to come.
I want to welcome you to Substack. I love Substack, and I think this will be a great platform for you to connect with people. And I think you'll really enjoy it. Like it's just a great. I love it. It's a great platform. So welcome to Substack.
Thank you.
Let's talk about what the Trump administration announced last week in terms of cost. Can you talk about like what you've seen patients face when they want to try these drugs or ask about these drugs and then all the barriers they faced before the Trump administration announcement
Mhm.
to
Yes,
give
I certainly
everybody a
can.
baseline? Mhm.
Yes, for sure. So it's quite sad that I do see many situations where clients who could really benefit from these medications get denied by insurance. Like, I mean, literally, they'll have diabetes and some other comorbidities, and for whatever reason, it could be that their job's insurance plan doesn't cover the medication. Not that they wouldn't qualify personally, and so they can't get it. And then the price is in the thousands now, so that's kind of hard. Like nobody wants to pay that out of pocket, right? And so another thing that I see is that sometimes patients get approved for them, and they get on it and, oh, it's working well, I'm losing weight, I'm making these changes, da 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 da, and then all of a sudden bam, insurance company's like, I'm not paying for this anymore, so they get shut down. And so that's it's devastating for a lot of clients because they feel like they finally found something, that a tool that can help them manage their weight, and not just their weight. um those of you that have taken GLP-1 medications, you may have noticed that it can also be helpful in reducing inflammation overall in the body. And so it kind of helps with a lot of other underlying things, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and, just a whole lot of other things. Lowering the hemoglobin A1C, some people see, because they're losing a weight, reduction in cholesterol levels. And so it can be quite devastating for some people. And also, I've had situations where clients will get the medication prescribed, but they're still hesitant to take them. And I understand why. I mean, there's risk to everything. And so they're hesitant to take them. They get the prescription, but they don't feel it, or maybe they feel it once and don't feel it again. And then when they finally muster up the courage to take it, okay, I'm gonna take it, um, boom, insurance is like, nope, not covering it. And so I've been telling clients in that situation, if you're still on the fence and you got a prescription for it and your insurer will cover it, go ahead, get the prescription filled, like clockwork, and stack that stuff up. And you can change your mind later, but if you don't have to pay for it, stack that stuff up.
Yeah, yeah.
So, so that's pretty
Um,
much what I see.
yeah. And I just want to say hello to Nichelle Hoskins. She's a friend of mine who
Oh,
was a health journalist,
yeah.
and also is a trainer. Yes. So I think it is Zepbound that is approved for treating sleep apnea, but
It is. Yep.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so they're being researched for so many other things. Most people are familiar with the fact that they can treat type 2 diabetes, they can treat obesity, which is a disease. They are now, treating heart disease, kidney disease, sleep apnea. They're being explored for PCOS,
Yeah.
arthritis, liver. Did one of them get approved for liver disease?
I feel like it did, but I can't remember which one. Like especially the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I can't remember which one, but yeah, I feel like that's one of the things. Yep.
Yeah. So they're also being explored for helping people who have alcohol use issues
Mm,
or substance use issues. And I think they're also being explored for treating dementia.
mm,
So these medications have a lot of potential uses, already a lot of approved uses, but a lot of potential uses. They're really groundbreaking. And so, to your point, it really is devastating when you have inconsistent access or you just have trouble getting access. Cost has been an issue, insurance has been an issue, sometimes distribution. When I lived in Atlanta, I had a hard time getting my prescription filled. And I was like, finally, I was just like, this does not make sense. I live in Atlanta. Like, this is one of the biggest cities. I should be able to go to Walgreens and get this. And
right.
so I lived in a middle class Black neighborhood, an older neighborhood. I live near the airport. So a lot of my neighbors were like bankers and teachers and government
Mhm.
workers and Delta employees. But I decided to call a Walgreens over in the wealthy part of town, and they were like, "Yeah, we've got it in stock. You can pick it up in an hour."
Are you kidding me?
I'm
Wow,
not.
the
So
nerve.
yeah, distribution has been an issue too.
Yeah, big time.
But let's talk about now what the Trump administration has announced with the launch of TrumpRx,
Mhm.
which is going to be a prescription platform, and they've negotiated prices. So the current list price for some of these drugs is above $1,000, as high as $1,600 per month for injections, depending on some of the drugs are once a week and some are once daily.
Yeah.
But so now, where are we?
Yeah, so without getting into too much like technical things, basically President Trump has launched TrumpRx to try to bridge the gap in access to the medications. And it could be a very good thing. Well, hopefully it's a very good thing. The only issue that I feel like it could be a good thing as far as increasing access, but someone's these companies have to make up for, like, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, they have to make up for that, loss some kinda way, but at the same time, maybe it'll balance itself out because they'll get the volume of, more people getting the medications. So basically, the Trump administration, they're starting with to be clear, they're starting with, if I'm not mistaken, trying to make sure that people on, like, Medicare and Medicaid can get access to them first because they weren't able to get them, consistently before. And usually, when that happens, commercial insurance companies tend to follow suit. I don't know how much longer after, but they tend to follow suit. And so that's pretty much the gist of it. We don't know how long it's going to take for this to really roll out. We don't know, like, at this time, it's no like guarantee. And so it's just something to, like, keep our eyes peeled for, I guess. Be on the
Yeah,
lookout for. And we have to
yeah.
see what happens overall. Yep.
But that is good news, for people who are on Medicaid and Medicare to be able to have access to these drugs finally for weight care. Their options for weight care have been limited,
Yeah.
in the past. Even with access to weight loss surgery, it's been limited,
Yes.
depending on what state you live in. So this is good news. Hopefully. Um, and then hopefully it will trickle down to the insurance companies. 'Cause I know people have had trouble there too.
Right.
Um, what do you think is gonna happen? Like, do you think what do you think is gonna happen next in terms of like how people use them, how they're prescribed? Like, what do you think will happen next?
Well, if this does go through and it does end up trickling down to commercial insurance companies, there's definitely going to be an uptick in these prescriptions. I feel like, and so more and more people are going to be on them. But I think people really need to still keep in mind that this is a tool, just like weight loss surgery, and we can't become reliant on them to manage our weight. Yeah, I mean they do a good job, especially for people who are very insulin resistant, have PCOS, post menopause, other metabolic disorders that's like, causing them to have such a hard time losing the weight. Or maybe people who can't be as mobile as they like to, have a hard time losing the weight. And so we're gonna see an uptick, but I do think that people need to be mindful of, yeah, the access may have increased, but I have a responsibility to educate myself on the dietary and lifestyle changes that go along with that. So that's what I think there.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's a good point because, a lot of people assume that you eat less or, like, they don't understand how these drugs really impact your appetite. Like, these are not like your grandma's AIDS diet suppressant
Mm-mm.
candy.
No, ma'am. No, absolutely not. This stuff is no joke. Yeah.
How do you see it impacting people who are like, their appetite?
Oh man, people like my a lot of my poor clients, they'll come to me. So I calculate their what's called estimated nutrition needs, which is calories, protein, fat, blah blah blah, all that stuff,
Mhm,
fiber. I calculate everything, even go as far as calculating how much starch they should have on a daily basis.
mhm.
And so anyway, a lot of them will tell me I just can't get enough in. I know I'm supposed to have X amount of protein, but I just can't get it all in. So we have to work together to find ways for them to pack a punch, so to speak, in the little bit of food that they can have. Because if they don't, they have increased risk of muscle wasting and malnourishment. And so I have to tell people, a lot of them, make sure you take your supplements if you have them. And, I don't really just randomly recommend random multivitamins or supplements. I have my patients get tested, get routine labs and, especially nutrition related labs and stuff like that. And, we kind of go from there. We have the baseline and we just kind of monitor every few months their labs and make sure everything is in order. And if I see any deficiencies, like let's say in vitamin B12 or iron or something like that, vitamin D, then I'll recommend something there. But yeah, so mostly the biggest issue is, getting people to eat enough. And then another issue that I see with the medication is I know you asked about appetite, right? That's
Yeah,
what you asked
yeah.
about. I'm about to get into something else. Well, I guess this kind of goes
It's
along with
okay. Yeah,
appetite
yeah.
because the GLP-1s slow down the y- uh the digestive process. It slows down peristalsis, or those contractions that happens in our digestive system to help foods move through our GI tract. Um People feel full longer. So that's part of the thing of how they feel full longer, right? But also in the same token, they people tend to not have enough fiber. And you kind of have to have a little bit more fiber to get things, moving along. You have to have that weight and that bulk to kind of help things move along even more. So that's another thing. Fiber and protein in and of itself. So you got a situation where you they can't take in a lot, right? So calories are lowered, but at the same time, they have to get, more than enough protein than usual, because and they have to prioritize protein over other things because, you don't want to have muscle wasting. And then they also have to prioritize fiber because fiber is going to help, keep the bowels moving. But then what is it? Protein and fiber, what do? Make you feel full longer too. And they also slow down digestion. So it really is like it's a balance. And so that's why it is recommended. You don't have to work with me, but I would love it if you work with me, but you should work with a dietitian to try to figure these things out and try to create that balance for yourself. Everyone should that's on these medications. And people who do the best on these medications, they have that team. They have they have a doctor that's really, that listens and really understanding. And, maybe they have a personal trainer if they can afford one. They're a part of some type of fitness group or they have a really good fitness regimen. They have a dietitian or some type of health coach or something. And they have like a supportive, some type of external support system, family or maybe even a therapist or whatever. So they have a team. They really do better when they have a team of people working with them.
Absolutely. And I think that's what a lot of people miss. Nichelle says, I've not in response to your um discussion of the importance of fiber. I've known folks with major impaction issues, like major. Yeah, I and then she also asks, can you advise on soluble and insoluble fiber balance?
Of course, yes. And so this is one of the things, I mean, several times a week I'm teaching this in my private practice
It's
because,
important.
yeah, it's very important. I have to hit it in the head and make sure people get it, make sure my clients get it. But anyway, so yes, so soluble and insoluble fiber. Insoluble, when you think of insoluble fiber, you're thinking of like the skins and the peels of fruits and vegetables, and you're thinking of like nuts and seeds, like almonds and cashews and stuff like that, sunflower seeds, and you're also thinking of like the stalks of like a broccoli or something like that, or celery. Let me back up a little bit. Most grains, fruits, and vegetables have a little bit of both types of fiber in them, most of them, provided that the grains aren't like white rice or white bread where they remove the fiber content out of it. But most of them already have a little bit of both in there. But there are some food items that have a higher amount of one type of fiber over the other. So getting back to insoluble fiber, let me back up a little bit. So insoluble fiber, what it does is it has the benefit of softening stools and helping things move through, combined with its weight and gravity, bulking up your stools and stuff like that. So it has a benefit of helping with bowel movements. But soluble fiber, if you've ever seen the best way that I can describe it is I'm sure people have heard of or seen, like, the chia seed recipes and stuff like that, chia seed pudding and,
Uh-huh.
so you've seen wet chia seeds, so when they get wet and they set for a little while, they start to swell up, right?
Mhm.
And get this, like, gelatinous, jelly-like viscous consistency, and that consistency, you could pretty much say is mostly soluble fiber, right? You're looking at soluble fiber when it swells up. So anyway, when you have things like berries, like raspberries, blackberries, avocados, even sweet potatoes, when you eat things like that, beans even, you so the soluble fiber content when it gets into your digestive tract, mainly your intestines, it will attract water to itself from your body. And when it does that, that's when it does that swelling jelly stuff, but it has an additional benefit that the insoluble fiber doesn't have. So soluble fiber, that content is a little sticky when it gets gelatinous like that, and so is cholesterol, sugar, and starch. And so those are a little sticky too at the cholesterol level. I mean, at the molecular level, excuse me. And so they can so basically soluble fiber content sticks to cholesterol, sugar, starch, removes it out of your body, not all of it, but a good amount of it through your stools. And so that's how soluble fiber is beneficial. And I do have like I can't too bad I'm on my phone because I could go all in on it. I do have like a video on my YouTube channel about soluble and insoluble fiber, I believe. But there is like a chart. There's these charts online that you can find telling you like how much soluble and insoluble fiber is in a food item. For example, if you have like a serving of cooked broccoli, you're going to see like a 1-to-1 ratio of soluble and insoluble fiber, most likely. But then you have something like let me see what I can think of. Some food items you're going to see that the insoluble fiber content may be more than the soluble fiber.
Okay.
So anyway, getting back to like kind of like maybe how much a person should have. So the recommendation for most women who are non-pregnant is about 25 grams of fiber daily. And the thing is that, so it's kind of hard to tell, well, how much soluble and insoluble fiber am I getting in this food, right? And we don't have a microscope to look at that or, any scientific lab. But anyway, so you're trying to aim for like between 5 and 15 grams of soluble fiber. The rest can be insoluble fiber. And so yeah, another way that I can describe insoluble fiber is like a sunflower compared to a chia seed. When you wet a sunflower seed, right, you pour water on, it's not going to swell up, right? That's because it's mostly insoluble fiber. And so hopefully that answered your question. I kind of rambled on a little bit, but hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah,
Let
and
me
then
know.
after, like, if I can get the link for that YouTube video you mentioned, and we can
Mhm.
add that to the, like, replay, so that the notes in the replay so people can have that.
Oh yeah, yeah, no problem. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody else will too. So, going back to one of the other things you talked about was, muscle loss. I think a lot of people, and I have to say, just in my personal experience, so I've had bariatric surgery, and I take GLP. I take Manjaro now. So I was on Ozempic, and now I'm on Manjaro. Um, so it took me, and I have a culinary degree, and I've been a
Uh-huh.
professional cookbook editor. It took me a year to figure out how to eat because like you were talking about how it's really complex and people really need to have a dietitian with them. Like it took me, I have all of that experience, and it took me a year to figure out how to eat after my surgery. And then like I started taking Ozempic a couple of months after I had my surgery. So it took me, after those two events, it took me about a year to figure out how to eat. It really is complex, even for somebody with a culinary background, and I worked on healthy cookbooks, and I kind of assumed that, "Oh, I got this. I can figure this out." And it was hard.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, for anybody who does watch and is like struggling, like I want them to know like you're not alone. Like it is hard, even for somebody like, who has a culinary background, it's
Mhm.
hard. And like it really does. And I worked with a dietitian. I worked with two different dietitians actually. Um, and it really was helpful because not only do you want to eat to meet your nutritional needs, but then there's the whole, like, you wanna, eat foods that you're familiar with or
Yeah.
that you grew up with,
Mhm.
and that's hard. That's hard to
Yeah, that's
do.
another level. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel like even me, like, cause I believe I shared with you that I've taken Ozempic. I don't have diabetes, but I did take it off label for weight loss, and now I'm on Zepbound. But even for me, like starting out on Ozempic over a year ago as a dietitian, to add to what you're saying, that it was hard for me to figure out how to eat for myself too. It took a lot of work, but I finally figured it out. And so I got to see, how challenging it was for clients that are on the medications. And like you said, you want to make sure that you have things that you like. You want it to be palatable, right? You don't want to like feel like you're punishing yourself. So anyway, any other questions or anything?
Let's see, Michelle. Michelle, you're okay. You're taking Wegovy.
Yay, look,
Uh,
go be.
let's just go over like I just want to touch on the other pricing outside of Medicare and Medicaid. So I think
Mhm.
it's important to understand that that both Novo and Lilly um, created online pharmacies
Right.
so that way they could make these drugs available at lower cost. So this was out like last year or earlier this year. So it wasn't something new with the Trump administration, but Eli Lilly made set-bound vials available.
Mhm.
The
Yep.
difference between actually getting, the list price, auto injector pens and the vials is like you get like a little vial of the medicine and you have your own syringe, like they include syringes in the
Mhm.
package, and you have to fill a syringe yourself and, measure the dose and give yourself the injection versus using the auto injector pen. And then, but that discounted price, I think is $2.99 to $3.99. So the price that is going to be available on TrumpRx is the same. It's not like a newly negotiated thing. It's already available now. So if you're having trouble with access, your insurance doesn't cover it. I think there are a couple of other conditions. You can go to it's Lilly Direct, and you can check out the pricing there. And you do have to have a prescription. And I think they actually have providers they can connect you with for the prescription. But you can look there. Uh, and then for the Novo Nordisk products, Ozempic and Wegovy, the new pricing is going to be around $250 to $350 per month, which is down from the current list prices of $1,000 to $1,350 per month. So that is significant.
Yeah.
And I think like the big question now in the industry is I used to work for a weight care company and we pivoted into compounded medications, compounded semaglutide. And we're able to offer it around this price point, like around 250 a month. And certainly there are other companies like Hims and Hers and Roe and Noom offering these drugs at around that ballpark price. So now everybody's wondering what's going to happen with compounded medications.
Mhm. Yes. For sure. I just kind of going back a little bit to what you were saying about the pricing. I do want to like kind of mention that the pricing for the Lilly Direct medication is only up to a certain dose where it's in like the $200 or $300, and then when it goes in a higher dosing, it's in like I think the $400 or $500 range.
Yeah, you're right about that.
I wonder if it's the same for Novo Nordisk as well. I'm not sure, but anyway, like get into the compounding medications. I think Sean, you and I kind of discussed that the compounding companies may potentially be wiped out with these changes or may face litigation.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you
Yeah.
know.
It's like I think the important thing to know is like there are people in the industry who want people to have access to the medications.
Right.
And like from so many different sides. There are people who want to make sure that people have access to the medications. And that was part of the effort to go into compounding medications because it was so not affordable for everybody and it wasn't being well distributed, the brand name versions. And so, but it was also kind of like a challenge to the manufacturers, so there was business, and so earlier this year in April, the FDA said, okay, all these companies that are doing compounded GLP-1s need to stop. Then they pivoted because there's two rules under which you can do compounded medication. One is there's a shortage of the medication, which was originally the truth with, Ozempic and Wegovy. There were huge shortages. And when there's a shortage of a critical medication, then it's legal to um, compound medication. These compounded medications are not approved by the FDA. The compounding pharmacies are regulated at the state level, but they have to follow rules created by the FDA. The FDA does not inspect them. They're again regulated by their states, but they have FDA rules that they have to stick to. Those are 501, 503A and 503B compounding pharmacies. So that's the first rule, like if there's a shortage of the drug. So then earlier this year, both the manufacturers were like, hey, we're cool. We've got the supply. We don't need to do any compounding anymore. There's not going to be any more shortage. And by that time, all of these companies had made compounding medication a huge part of their revenue streams. And they still wanted to be able to make the drugs accessible to people who couldn't get them. So then they pivoted into personalization, which is the second rule of compounding. But it's interesting because originally the FDA rule for compounding under personalization is like very personal. Like say like, you you need a formulation of the drug that is not commercially available. Like say like and this is a really simple example, but say like there's like a really big pill. It doesn't come in any other format, but from the manufacturer, and you have a trouble swallowing big pills. So you could go to a compounding pharmacy and they could make a formulation that you could take. Like maybe it's going to be a smaller pill or maybe it's going to be a liquid version or something else. But that's typically historically has been done just on a case by case basis for individuals. Right. And these companies that were doing compounding and they're like, okay, we need to personalize. They kind of came up with mass personalization. So they might have added vitamin B to help people be able to take them and call it like a nausea reducing formula, right? So who knows? Like, and now the manufacturers are recognizing that's what's happening, and they are now meeting the price point of compounding. So I agree with you, Tradina. I think that e- like I think that the manufacturers are going to get more litigious now that the price point is lower and in the same ballpark as the compounding medications.
Mm.
I think they're going to challenge these companies on whether the personalization is actually effective or whether it's just a way to, continue prescribing compounded medications. And I think that a lot of these companies are going to go back to prescribing the brand name medications. But I think they're also going to keep an eye on making sure the supply is steady because I think the only other way now for these companies to continue offering compounded medications or prescribing compounded medications are if there's a shortage.
Yeah.
Um, so it's getting better for end users, for patients, but it's still like really going to be crazy from a commercial and legal regulatory perspective, I think.
Yeah, and I think, kinda adding to that, it will, like, if the changes really, come down to to commercial insurances where, more people have access, um I feel like there's always gonna be, like, some underhanded, like, black market, so to speak, of these
Mhm.
medications, right? Because they're gonna go down lower, and then someone's gonna be like, "Oh, well, we can do it even lower," you know? And, so my point is that I think people still need to be careful,
Mhm.
because even though the price will be reduced on the medications, allegedly, hopefully, some people still don't have $200 and $300 a month to spare, right? And so they're going to try to find another shortcut if they want to get their hands on these medications. And like today, the past couple of days, I've been seeing all over Facebook and some of the groups where people are like, "Oh, I got my medication from China." Now, I'm not saying that um, everything is, just because it came from there is bad. But my point is that we don't really know what's in it. Like it's not regulated. I got it from China, or I got my medications from some what's the word for it? Inspected research lab or laboratory or something. And so guys, you got to be careful with that because you don't know if there's other fillers in there, or you don't know what they put in there, and you don't even need a prescription for these things. Not that I'm trying to give anybody any ideas, but these things can be dangerous. You don't know what it can do to you. And so I would just say, if the price reduction happens and you still find that you can't afford them, maybe there are some things that you can do, which I want to like kind of talk about too in my newsletter eventually. Some things that can be done to like maybe you can do some things to try to help uh find a way in your budget to be able to afford them. Like, and I'm not talking about like gig work, how you have the DoorDash and Amazon Flex and all this. So I'm talking about like maybe something like affiliate sales. It doesn't cost you anything, but if you like to talk and you like to, hey, I take this product or whatever, so you can do things like that. And then there's also like websites where you can buy legitimate websites where you can buy discounted gift cards. And you can like let's say you shop at Walmart all the time, right? You can go on a website and there'll be a discounted gift card. These are like all legit sites, and you can, use that card to buy groceries or whatever, and that can save you some money. There's also like things like Rakuten and stuff. Now, I'm not affiliated with these people. I'm just saying that there's, things that you can do to try to, put that money to the side so that you can afford those medications that don't cause you too much extra effort.
Those are good tips. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah,
Appreciate
you're
that.
welcome. No
Yeah.
problem.
I do hope that more people who need the medication can get access to it and to like, I feel like, the things that you pointed out, Tradina, in terms of like being able to work with a dietitian or being able to work with a trainer or an exercise physiologist or somebody like that is really important. And I feel like those are the things that are being left out. Like, people are missing a lot of times that part of the story. I was fortunate that I was working with an obesity medicine specialist before I started. And like one of the first things they told me was you have to strength train while you're taking these
Yeah.
medications. And like if you only have 20 minutes to work out, go lift weights. So I think that, and then just working through all the diet issues and, really making sure you're getting your nutrition is so important. And
Yeah.
it really does take a care team, like you pointed out.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, like I know a lot of my clients were surprised to find out that they actually have some of them have like gym memberships covered in their health insurances or personal trainers and stuff. And maybe like a limited sessions with personal trainers, but because a lot of companies and insurers will give like extra perks, or some of them will even like pay you some type of benefit or whatever, some type of perk for exercising or getting a personal trainer or something like that. So look into your benefits. Make sure you're taking like full advantage of it, and also look into your benefits and see if you have coverage for a dietitian as well, because a lot of people are surprised to find out that they have that as well. So yeah, so having a team doesn't have to necessarily mean extra expenses on you, and so just something to keep in mind, I guess.
Those are great points. Thank you. Is there
Mhm.
anything else that you think people should know about GLP-1s and the new pricing or taking GLP-1s in general?
Yes, I adding to like the protein and fiber, also making sure you stay very hydrated. Because when you increase protein, yes, when you increase protein and fiber, protein, especially animal-based protein, is harder on the kidneys, and so you want some extra water to flush that out. And then when you increase your fiber, especially like soluble fiber, well, either one, it's attracting water to itself from your body, and so you have to replenish that. So it increases your risk of dehydration. You already can't get enough down. Protein and fiber is making you feel full too, but then you got to squeeze in water. So you need to be sipping all day long, nonstop, pretty much, to get it in. So make sure you get enough water. And usually it's recommended for most people to have like half a gallon to a gallon of water, or it converts to like 64 to 128 fluid ounces a day for most people. And it may seem kind of hard at first, but people, you can do it. Get that water in. And I think that's pretty much it that I have as far as nutrition recommendations. Let me see. Anything else about the money? No, I think, if you do manage to get these medications, once again, just making sure that you understand that it's a tool. It's not like, because I saw a post the other day, once again on Facebook, where someone stated, "Oh, I got on the injection. Why do I have to exercise and, watch what I eat? What's the point of the medication if I have to do all that?" And in those situations I try not to be a smarty pants or, roll my eyes too much. But it's like, people still aren't educated to get their hands on these medications and they still aren't educated. And I find that, sometimes the people who prescribe them don't educate people, when they're prescribed. They just, prescribe and okay, go on your way, kind of like some people who've had bariatric surgery. Okay, here's your binder. Good luck. Trying to eat anything. And so anyway, just do your due diligence, be patient with yourself. If you have a plateau, try not to get frustrated and show yourself kindness, be gentle with yourself and try to work on your mindset and your health behaviors and, a sustainable lifestyle change. Do things in a way that you don't have to, be dependent on the medication for too long or that, you just don't want to be codependent on it. You want to make sure that you're doing things in a way where you can eventually get off of it one day if possible. Yeah.
This is good advice. Thank you so much,
Mhm.
Tradina. Love talking with you, and
Likewise.
I love to talk again. Like, there are some things that you said at the beginning about bariatric patients that I can relate to too. So maybe we can have that conversation one day.
Yeah.
Because that was hard too. I'm grateful that I did it, but it was hard too. I really think this conversation will be helpful for a lot of people. Thank you so much, and welcome to
Welcome.
Substack.
Thank you. Yay.
Awesome, awesome. I will make this replay available as soon as Substack lets me. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. Good to meet everyone. I'm happy to be on Substack and I'm excited. Thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.